Welcome to Focus Radio and Television. I'm Anthony Rayo, and this is Focus Lake County's radio program brought to you by Red Apples Media. You're listening to us here on WLBE, my 790 AM, and you can hear us the first and third Thursday of each month. Every month here for Focus Radio. Our current issue is now on stands, the November issue, all about a salute to our veterans, and you can find it at more than 130 locations throughout Lake County. And then you can watch this program and other Focus TV segments on LSTV, which is Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and Florida Cable 4, or online at lakesumtertv.com and focuslakecounty.com. Now we know next week, November 11th, is Veterans Day, and this month's focus actually focuses on how Village's Honor Flight is giving local service members the trip of a lifetime. They get to see Washington, D.C. monuments, military memorials, either going there actually in person, going possibly for the first time, or they have flightless honor flights. And we're going to talk in a few moments to a couple of representatives from Village's Honor Flight all about that. Plus, our Lake Legacies article also talks about some interesting facts about Lake County and military service. Did you know that LSSC actually sits on the same place that a German prisoner of war camp was during World War II? And you might be surprised at some other interesting history in the legacies that Lake County has to offer. Plus, in the Focus on the Issues article, there's two veterans that sound off about military discounts and other marketing perks geared towards service veterans if they believe that they're sincere signs of gratitude and respect versus pandering by those trying to lure them in. So there's a lot to read in the Focus magazine, but now we're going to turn our attention. We have with us first Mr. Joe Hambright. He is the VP of Operations with Village's Honor Flight, and we're going to talk to him about the history of Honor Flight and what it's doing, the Village's Honor Flight, what it's doing here in the surrounding counties of Lake, Sumter, Marion, Hernando, and Citrus. So I understand that Honor Flight, Joe, welcome to the program, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to tell everybody about our Village Honor Flight organization.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Now, Honor Flight itself began in Ohio about 10 years ago, so give me just a brief history of how Honor Flight started and the purpose.
Well, there was a physician's assistant in the southern Ohio area that had a number of World War II veterans as patients. And the World War II memorial was dedicated in 2004, so he was asking his patients if they would have an opportunity to see the memorial. And yeah, they said, yeah, we're going to do that and we're going to do that. And as he got a chance to talk to them more and more, he found out that they were not able to do it either physically or financially. So he had an airplane and he flew one guy down, and it was such a emotional, rewarding experience. He came back to his flight club and said, guess what, guys? I'm going to let you guys fly World War II vets to Washington, and you're going to pay the bill. And that pretty much is how the National Honor Flight Organization began.
Wow. So now you've been involved for about 5 years, which is about how long Village's Honor Flight has been going. How did that get started, and what is your involvement, and how did you get involved in the efforts?
Well, the Village's Honor Flight started, they started putting it together in late 2011. We flew our first flight on Memorial Day weekend in 2012. I had volunteered to be a guardian, and got a letter saying, hey, you're going to be a guardian on the first flight, and I got involved there, and I went to an Honor Flight club meeting, and Barb's going to talk a little later about the Honor Flight Club. But I went to the club meeting. We had 15, 18 people, and it was the first flight for all of us, and we were all the blind leading the blind. Nobody really knew what we were doing, but we brought the same number of vets home that we took, so it was a successful flight, and they all really enjoyed it. So I was just going to be a guardian, and umpteen flights later, I'm still involved in the organization and really enthusiastic about honoring our war veterans.
Now, what veterans are actually involved? You mentioned there's a lot of World War II veterans, also Vietnam, and then who else can benefit from Honor Flight?
Honor Flight was originally intended to be for World War II veterans. That was the whole premise of the organization. And there's 130 hubs around the country, and each of these hubs has the authority to decide whether they're going to disband their organization after World War II vets are done, or whether they're going to continue on. So the Village's Honor Flight has decided we're going to continue on with subsequent wars. We are just finishing up our World War II vets. In fact, the last flight was the first one where we flew more Korean vets than World War II vets. And we anticipate that to keep going. And so World War II vets, of course, have the first option for a flight. But then any veteran of any congressionally defined war era who is terminally ill will move right to the front of the list, and we will take them on the next available flight. Next flight, not available. The next flight, they will go. So that's pretty much our priority, and we're starting to get heavy into Korea, and I would anticipate it'll be a few years yet till we finish up with the Korean veterans and move on to Vietnam.
Yeah, so there's a lot. Now, so far this year, in 2015, I understand you just took the last flight last week, and there's been 4 honor flight missions, and then there's also been what you call a flightless honor flight. Just describe what that is and the different places and people who can benefit from that.
Well, the first 2 years of our existence, we were flying regular flights, and we discovered that there is a group of veterans out there that who are basically too frail to withstand the vigors of a 22 to 25 hour day that we encounter on a normal flight. So we developed the flightless honor flight. In fact, we were the first hub in the country to have a flightless honor flight. So we compress a 25-hour day into about a 5-hour day where we bring our veterans in, we bring crowds in. Southwest Airlines sends representatives, and we go to a rec center in the villages. And I think this is an opportunity to throw a little attention their way. I cannot overstate the help that we've had from the village's recreation department, and particularly the people that work in the rec centers and help us organize everything. So we get the vets in, and we have 3 rooms. We bring them in through one room, and TSA from Florida sends up an honor guard. So they have the honor guard. We do a TSA check. The Southwest rep will ring the bell, the Southwest ding, and pass out peanuts, and then we'll bring them back out as like we're coming into Baltimore, and we cheer, and we just keep rotating through crowds the whole day. We show them videos of the whole flight, and end up at the end of the day, we take them onto a bus led by a large motorcycle escort, and we take them back to the American Legion post. Again, another kudo for American Legion 347. They provide us with a place to meet in the morning. They provide us a place for homecoming. Can't say enough about those guys. So that's what the flightless honor flight is. It's for those that are just too frail to manage a regular day.
Now, you mentioned that frailty. Now, the regular honor flight, it sounds like a very rigorous journey. You just went on one last week. Just give us a typical day. How does that go? You know, you wake up, you go to the airport, and what can you expect if you're on an honor flight?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I even wake up. I leave home at 1:30 in the morning. We meet at the American Legion 347 at 2. Everybody checks in. We have a little ceremony. On the bus to the Orlando airport, have breakfast at the Orlando airport, fly to Baltimore. Baltimore has a great organization to assist everybody there. Take the bus into Washington, D.C. We'll see the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Go to the Air Force Memorial for lunch. It's kind of a slow time then. It gives everybody a little time to relax. And then back on the bus to the mall, where we'll see the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, and the Vietnam Memorial. After that, it's back on the bus again, back to the airport, have dinner at the airport. A few surprises here and there, but I'm not going to talk about those. And then back on the bus or the plane to Baltimore, to Orlando, back on the bus to the American Legion post. And 25 hours later, the veterans look down the hill at the greeting they're going to get, and we have to control their flow at the top of the stairs. In fact, they're helping the Guardians off the bus. The Guardians are shot at the end of the day, and they're energized and excited, and we have a little homecoming for them then, and about 24 hours at that point, everybody goes home and goes to bed. So that's a typical flight for an honor flight.
It sounds like a pretty rigorous day to be involved in.
Believe it, it is.
Now, you mentioned the Guardian. So what is the role of a Guardian, and how could somebody get involved if they wanted to as a Guardian?
The role of the Guardian, as we explained to them in our pre-flight meetings, is A, the safety of the vet, B, the safety of the vet, and C, the safety of the vet. So we kind of emphasize that. So really, they're there for the whole day. They'll push the vet in the chair. We have a chair for every veteran. So they will push the veteran in their chair. Veteran wants a cup of coffee, get them a cup of coffee. Ice cream, they get them ice cream. They are never more than an arm's length away from their veterans. So they are there to be their valet, their chauffeur, but mainly to ensure their safety, health, and well-being. That's really what our goal is. You want to be a Guardian? Send your name in to Barbara. She's our Guardian coordinator. And perhaps in 15 to 18 months, you'll be a guardian. The response for guardians has been incredible in the villages area. We have a long waiting list. Every flight we have experienced guardians to supplement new ones, so it takes a little while to work your way through the list. And on top of the 25-hour day and all the time and energy, we allow them to pay for the experience of being a guardian. And we still have just 140 guardians, I would guess, on our list just waiting to fly again.
Wow, that's great to have that volunteer spirit to get involved in the program.
Well, the Villages is pretty good with volunteering.
I would imagine so. Now, where could you go? Is there a website to get more information?
It's villageshonorflight.org.
Okay.
And you go there and we'll have pictures from every mission we've flown, thousands of pictures on there. You want to be a veteran application, a volunteer application, guardian application, everything's there. Anything you need to know about Villages Honor Flight, just one click away.
Now, there are some more plans coming up for 2016. Let's talk a little bit about that and, let people know so they can get involved ahead of time.
Well, we're having our first Flightless Honor Flight of the year on February 27th. And then on March 30th, we're having our first regular flight, and May 18, we're having our second regular flight. And the reason we know those dates is we have to get our tickets 6 months in advance. In fact, we have an individual who is our ticket meister, and 30 seconds after they go on sale, which is 6 months out, she's online getting the tickets for us. We're buying 90 tickets, so we have to get there early if we want to fly.
I would imagine that's got to be some task to undertake.
It is, but she does a good job.
Well, that's excellent. Now, also there's a grand reunion on the 8th of January. What is this about?
Well, we have reunions twice a year, for one reunion for the spring flights and one for the fall flights. But this is a reunion to commemorate us flying our 500th vet. So on, January 8th, I believe is the date. We have invited every vet and every guardian we've ever flown since our inception to attend a reunion at the Presbyterian Church, which was just located right behind Home Depot on 441. So we're expecting 700-800 people. It's hard to tell. We're still collecting RSVPs, but it's going to be a fun event. We're going to have people there entertaining, and the twirlers and the cheerleaders, and lots of things going on. And all this is just to honor our veterans.
Oh, that's great. So last question I have for you is, what is this that makes this such a special cause for you personally to be involved with?
I think I said earlier that I signed up to be a guardian, and that was all I wanted to do. And on that flight, I drank the Kool-Aid, and I saw that this is really a unique group of individuals that were flying. And I got to know some of these people, and these people did things that we can only read about. We only can talk about. So I have become a staunch believer in honoring our World War II veterans. Our motto there is all they did was save the world. Korean veterans, forgotten no more, and Vietnam veterans, welcome home. And they all have their own unique things. So the veterans, you've seen pictures of the World War II vets marching down Broadway with ticker tape. Nah. I've never talked to a vet that was involved in that. These guys came home. They said, "Here's a $25. Here's a plane or train ticket. Thanks for helping," and that was the welcome home they got. So we're trying to step in and recognize these people for what they did, and they really did save the world at that time. If not, we'd be here speaking Japanese or German probably. Yeah. And I can't speak those very well.
So hopefully we won't have to learn for those reasons.
Yes, sir.
Now, your personal experience, what would you say is something that's touched you personally, working with some of the veterans?
These people, like I said, have done and seen things we can't imagine, and they get off the bus, they're in tears. I don't think it's safe to say the staff has never been in tears, but I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a very emotional thing, and when you see these guys thanking you, best day of my life, never seen a thing like this, and on, that's my pay. That's how we get paid.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back in a moment with Barb Cooksey, also a Villages Honor Flight. Welcome back to Focus Radio and Television. You're watching us here on Comcast 13, Bright House 498, or Florida Cable 4, or you're listening to us here on My 790 AM out of Leesburg. Of course, be sure to like Focus Lake County on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, and pick up your copy of the November issue of Focus Magazine saluting Lake County's more than 35,000 veterans. Now we'd like to welcome Barb Cooksey with Villages Honor Flight. We're going to continue that discussion that we just had with Joe Hambright. Thanks for joining us, Barb.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here with us. Now, we were discussing with Joe the purposes behind Honor Flight, Villages Honor Flight, basically transporting as many veterans, starting with World War II veterans, to Washington, D.C. to kind of experience the memorial monuments, to see the Capitol, and to see really what they fought for. So let's continue that discussion. We talked about that the main focus of these trips, your target audience. Run us through a selection process. How does somebody apply, or how does somebody nominate someone for application?
Well, there are a couple of ways for the veterans to apply. If they have a computer, which some do, villageshonorflight.org. Go to our homepage, and on the left side there's a button that says applications. They can click on that and get a vet application. That way, fill it out and send it in by mail. Or they can call our general number, which is area code 352-432-1382, and an application will be mailed to them.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways. Now, can you nominate someone maybe in your family or a family member?
Sometimes we have veterans that say, you know, I'd really like for my son, daughter, neighbor, friend to be my guardian. And if that's the case, they generally send their applications in at the same time. The veteran will complete an application, and then we have a separate application for all the guardians. And so the guardian, they'll usually put them in the same envelope and say, we want to go with each other. And we make that happen if at all possible.
Oh, excellent. Now, you're very passionate about these efforts. We talked a little bit on the phone and then before the show. Why is that? What is it that motivates you to get involved with Honor Flight and the service veterans?
Well, much like Joe, I thought it would be a blast to be a guardian. I moved to the Villages a little over 2 years ago and saw an article in the paper that said we could fly more veterans if we had more guardians. And I thought, well, shoot, I can do that. I'm not a veteran, but I've always been very appreciative of all the work that the veterans had done and the sacrifices that they made and their families have made. And so I started going to the club meetings, and my first job was actually name tags at one of the reunions. And so pretty soon my name came up and I got to be a guardian, and as Joe says, once you've been on one flight, it's such an awesome experience. Everybody says that what we do is take the veterans to DC, but what we actually do is honor the veterans. And all throughout the day, people are saying thank you to them and thank you for your service. And when I saw how the veterans received that, and the tears and the emotion and the gratitude that they had, I'm like, this is an organization I need to be involved with.
Now, you mentioned the club, and that was something that Joe was mentioning during the break is very important, because there's only really a few members of Honor Flight from how I understand it. So how does this work?
Yeah, there are two separate organizations. Villages Honor Flight, Inc. is a 501c3 charitable organization. So any donations that are made are tax deductible. We have a board of directors of 7 people, and they're the people of Villages Honor Flight, Inc. Then we need volunteers, and so we have a Villages Honor Flight Club. And it's based in the Villages, and so we're allowed to use the rec centers for free to have our meetings and organizational things and trainings and so forth. The club meets on the second Monday of every month, and currently we have about 100 people that come each month, even through the summer, and so I expect a lot more will be coming during the winter. Joe said the first meeting he had were 12 to 18 people there, and now we're well over 100. Each mission takes probably 100 volunteers behind the scenes, doing things from baking cookies for the veterans to have while we're doing the training, to check them in, to park cars, to help get the wheelchairs from our storage lockers. So we have so many needs, and we're so fortunate to have a good group of volunteers.
And to be part of that club, you don't necessarily just have to be a Villages resident, but you
Absolutely
cover
not.
the 5 counties.
Absolutely not. And we do have some active volunteers from Leesburg. Some people that live in the legacy of Leesburg are volunteers. We have people that come down from Ocala and join us as well, because like I said, once you go on a flight, then you're wanting to help any way that you can.
Yeah, it's very all-encompassing. Now, what do you most enjoy about that experience?
What I enjoy is seeing the veterans' reactions as we go through the day. And they don't know what to expect. They think they're going to get on a plane like they do with their family and go on a trip and see the memorials and come back. And to see the greeting of the ordinary traveler in the airport. When we get off the plane and we're 83 people strong and we all have on our blue and red shirts and we're walking down through there, people just stop and they start clapping. It's a spontaneous thing, and the vets are like, who are they clapping for? And they don't expect it, and a lot of them think they don't deserve it, especially the veterans that didn't see action. They're like, well, what did I do? And we're like, you know, for every soldier or airman that was on that front line, there are 8 people behind them making sure that they got the supplies they needed and got home safely. So.
Yeah, definitely a nice way to give a salute to them. Now, what sort of testimonials have you gotten from those veterans who have benefited from these flights?
The first veteran that I took at the end of the day, he said, Barb, this has been the best day of my life. And I said, better than getting married? He goes, oh yeah. Better than having children? Oh yeah. And so we get that quite a bit. And I brought a letter, if you'd like to read from someone that went on the September flight. And he is a Leesburg resident. And he said, yesterday I was honored by the Villages Honor Flight organization together with another 34 veterans with an all-day trip to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials in appreciation for my military service in World War II. In my lifetime, I have never had a more rewarding experience. I can't better express my feelings than to say I am sincerely grateful to the Honor Flight volunteers who showed us such kindness to each one of us. And because of the kindness that others expressed, and also thanking me for my military service while there, this letter is simply to tell you that I appreciate the fact that you took me to D.C. And so that's Tom Lally down a little bit south of Leesburg.
Yeah, and we talked to Mr. Lally about his experience in the November issue. He was somebody that had a lot to say about the organization and what it did for him.
Absolutely. He really enjoyed it. And another gentleman just closed his letter by saying, generally, I'm not a very emotional person, but this trip provided many opportunities to be emotional. When sitting in a wheelchair and being pushed through a long line of hundreds of people waving American flags, all thanking you for your service, shaking your hand, and yes, sometimes a little kiss on the cheek, I became so emotional I could not speak and my eyes were full of tears. And he said, again, many, many thanks for a wonderful trip, a day I will never forget for the rest of my life. So that's our thanks. We're 100% volunteer organization, and that's our thanks that we get from the vets.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's all funded by donations. You're a 501c3.
Correct.
Now, how can you donate, and how can you get involved?
Well, we have several ways to donate. Anybody can send in, go on our website again, villageshonorflight.org, and there's a button for Donate Now. We have various fundraisers throughout the year, both internal and external, I call them. External are organizations that do fundraisers, and we're the beneficiary of it. For example, the Villages Parrot Hat Club is having a fundraiser at Cody's November 10th from 4 to 6. And then Parity Financial is having a fundraiser for us on Veterans Day at Brownwood from 5 to 9. Then we do our internal fundraisers that we manage ourselves, and the next one is December 7th. It's a swing band concert at the American Legion, and ticket information is available on our website. There are still some tickets available for that.
Now, you also hold the regular meetings, the club meetings, which the public can attend, club members can attend, and then you have other club meetings and events where you can send a speaker to talk about Honor Flight. How can somebody get involved in that or welcome in Honor Flight to come to their club?
For one of the hats that I wear 4 of them. One of them is the speaker coordinator. And so I get the message saying we would like a speaker for our club. And I'm getting a lot of those requests now. And either myself or some other presenter will go and speak to the club. So again, going into the website, calling the phone number, sending an email to anybody on there, it'll find its way to me, and we'll be glad to make a presentation at your club. Like you said, anybody can come to the Honor Flight Club meetings, which are the second Monday of each month at the Colony Recreation Center on Colony Boulevard in the Villages. And the next meeting is Monday.
Okay.
And so we generally, it's free, there's no fees to belong to the club, and we'll give a recap of the latest missions that we've had, and then talk about the needs that we have going forward.
Yeah, and you're actually a squad leader and a flight director, so you've got a lot of stuff going on.
I've worn a lot of different hats over the 2+ years that I've been involved, and have enjoyed it very much. So Joe has been on a lot of different flights, and he's training folks to take over. So I'm one of the people that's did my first flight in September, and I'll be the flight director for the March 30th flight as well.
And what would you say to others who maybe want to get involved or know a veteran to kind of motivate them, kind of inspiring words?
I don't know how inspiring I am, but if you've ever thought about giving back to somebody, and in our 5 counties that we service, I don't know if we mentioned that or not, Lake Sumter, Marion, Hernando, and Citrus, there are a lot of veterans that are out there to be honored. And the look and the emotions that come from these veterans when we simply say thank you is unbelievable. And if you would like to experience that, this is a great organization to do it.
Well, thank you so much, Barb, for joining us. We really appreciate both your and Joe's insight into Villages Honor Flight and the many ways that we can get involved and what it's really all about.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And again, villageshonorflight.org is the website you can go to find out more. And you can also look in this month's edition of Focus magazine, the November issue, which talks a lot about Villages Honor Flight. Also has more of a testimonial from Mr. Lally and his experiences with Honor Flight, and a few other veteran-related stories that we mentioned before. There's another one, actually one of our monthly columnists, Dennis McGee, Mr. Handyman. He actually talks about a recent opportunity he had to help a veteran renovate his home and how that helped him really appreciate the sacrifices that these servicemen and women are making for the country. And also, our focus flashback is the local armory there in Leesburg, and there's a little bit about its history, where it originally stood, and there's a picture of it from years past. So there's a salute to the servicemen and women, of course, that were involved in the wars, and Villages Honor Flight and their involvement now. Be sure, of course, to like Focus Macon County on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, and listen to us here the first and third Thursday of each month on WLBE, or catch us on LSTV. Thanks for listening to Focus Radio, and don't forget to keep us in your focus.